Welcome, everyone. Welcome to the beautiful Bristol Community College campus. We want to thank Laura Douglas, the president of this college, and her staff for allowing us to be here tonight, giving us this lovely facility where you're going to hear a lot of great information. So sincerest thanks to Bristol Community College. And enjoy the flowers. They're gorgeous out there. I also want to thank Karen Almeida, who's here from Senator Roderick's office, and Tyra, where's Tyra? Tyra, sorry, from Rep. Fiola's office, and of course our dear friend Mayor Coogan. Where did he go? Oh, right in front of me. Thank you, Mayor. Thank you all for being here. Ken Fiola from Fall River Economic Development is also here. At this point, I want to turn it over to our General Manager from the MBTA. This is Phil Eng.
Thank you, Jean. Thank you for everyone for coming out tonight. I know how busy everyone is, and I know how important this project is to everybody. Before I dive into a little bit, I'd like to just introduce some of my team here. You can see Ryan Coholan right there on the right. He's our Chief Operating Officer. Sam Zava, adjacent to him, is our Chief Engineer in charge of capital delivery in this project. And then our project manager, newly appointed Karen Anton, is leading this project now. So again, thank you very much for coming out. I know how important this is to everybody, and I also know how the update is going to be vital to the ability for people to plan as we work through this project. Some of the things that I wanted to talk about is the schedule, where we are, what we've done, and how we ended up here. It's important to know that since I've started at the MBTA in April of last year, some of the things I've been working on is taking a look at all of our capital delivery, all of our senior leadership, and how we go about conducting business. Some of the leadership team here that I've introduced are new to the team, not necessarily new to the MBTA, but new in their roles. And at the same time, we've been taking a hard look at all of the capital delivery projects, not only this one, and this one is a very big one, a very important one, but also our small projects, because it's important for us to really look at how we manage, how we deliver. As I was getting updates on this project earlier this year, and the new team, new operations folks, are reviewing the delivery of the schedule, the deliverables, and all of the safety and signaling components, it became apparent that the schedule is not matching what we had publicly advertised. And as we took a deeper look, we realized that some of the things that we needed to do was strengthen the project team, particularly on the signaling, testing, commissioning, as we move into operations. And that is a very highly specialized expertise, and that's why Karen Anton has taken over the role of project manager. And I felt that that was a very important change, because we needed to really take a deep dive into the issues that were affecting the schedule, and how do we come here today to be able to share a more clarity on a schedule. One of the reasons it has taken this long is that I needed to give Karen the time, and her team, as we reorganize that team as well under Karen, the ability to go and take a deep dive into all the different aspects: the construction, the track work, the signaling work, the testing work, our coordination with FRA, and coordination across the functional units, not just the capital delivery, but also how the delivery turns it over to the operator, the MBTA, and Keolis, who operates our commuter rail system for us. And as we've done that, we're here today to be able to share a schedule, deliverables, and how we're going to hold ourselves accountable to those dates. And I know how important that has been. So some of the things that you'll hear to get us to this point is all of the efforts with regards to the track work that has been done, and the track work is complete now. And there was a lot of components that allow that, because recently you may have seen test trains running, albeit at 25 miles an hour. Those test trains were important to run, and part of our safety certification. But now, starting Monday, you will see June 17th, we will be running our commuter rail trains. We have loaned the project team a train set that will now run through the system end to end, and we will start off at 25 miles an hour, but then we will increase the speeds to 45 miles an hour, and then you will see speeds at 79 miles an hour, which is the maximum speed through the corridor. And we wanted to be able to talk about that because that is something you have not seen on this corridor. And when the trains are running at those speeds, we really want to emphasize safety in and around the system, but also safety at the grade crossings particularly, because trains traveling at those speeds do approach very quickly, and it's important that we talk about that part too. Aside from testing and commissioning and that component that is key to moving to the next step, what we're looking at that point is then the critical path work is this signal system. That is the automatic train control, positive train control. Karen Anton will talk about more details about it, but that is the safety vital components that controls the train speeds to ensure that we're running at the safe and appropriate speeds, but also to prevent train-to-train collisions. And that is a complex component of onboard equipment on the trains, wayside equipment on the track sides, and how those communications go between train to train to wayside equipment to control speeds and prevent collisions. And there's a whole component to the testing of those that is the reason for the new schedule that we have. And what we'll also talk about is the Keolis will be taking over operations from the contractor at the end of January. At that point, we'll be entering what we call revenue service demonstration. FRA will be part of that process. It's typically a 90-day process, and once revenue service demonstration is complete and approved and certified by FRA, we will be able to enter into passenger service. And this is a key thing, because if we were to expedite, rush, miss a step, we could make the schedule worse, but worst case, we would do something that's not safe, and we don't want to do that for any riders that we allow on the trains and our employees. It's very important to us to make sure that we're focused on delivering as soon as possible, but in the right manner, the commuter rail service that's so vital to everyone here. A few other things. The importance of this project, we certainly understand not only for the folks that want to use the system going into and out of Boston, but also local communities to local communities. We know how important this is to local economic development, to transit-oriented development, and the future quality of life here. So we're really focused on this. Today I'm here because it was important for me to be able to talk to you directly, not for you to read about where we're announcing in terms of the schedules. And I wanted to make sure that you know that I will stay involved with this project team. We will be back, including myself, to provide updates on a regular basis. But what you'll see today is actual dates and what we have done to date, and so you can manage and monitor the progress of this project moving forward. I think with that, I'm going to ask Karen Anton to step up, and we'll also have time at the end to have questions and answers. Okay? Thank you, Karen.
All right, so good evening, everybody. It's great to see a crowd here tonight. It's a beautiful night, so I appreciate you coming in and spending some time indoors with us. As Phil said, you know, when he asked me to take a look at the project and really make a determination, where are we, what has been done, what needs to be done, and then put a plan together to get it done. That's what we've been doing over the last couple of months. So, you know, I oftentimes say to people when they say, how come you don't have anything to say, which is not something I'm known for. You know, I don't really have anything to say. So people who work with me are saying that's right. You know, there's no reason to say anything if you don't have anything to say. And so today we have some things to say. We want to explain to you where we are, what needs to be done, and how we're going to get it done. And at the end, we'll answer any questions that you have to the extent that we can do that. We have a lot of really smart people here, so I have confidence that we can. All right, so first we start with something that everybody that's behind me, everybody knows, which is the scope of the project. The project is 37 miles, 6 new stations, and 2 layover facilities. And of course, it's down here in your neck of the woods, as they say. Let me start with the stations. Of the 6 stations, 4 of them are complete. I'm sure that you may see them as you ride around in the area. 2 stations have work that needs to be done. The New Bedford, Fall River, Freetown, Middleborough, and Church Street. And the pictures that you see are Fall River, Freetown, and Middleborough stations. 2 stations have work remaining. The New Bedford is 97% complete, and we're anticipating completing that next month. So you can see that that's very, very close as well. They're doing punch list work there. East Taunton Station, a little bit more work to do there. We've had some material delays that have affected our ability to finish that station, and we've had some challenges getting the elevators to work properly. We've actually stopped there on our way over here today, and those things, the elevators are working, and the glass, which we were waiting for, has been installed. So we have some work to do, final paving and things along those lines, but the station looks really, really good. I think you're going to be really pleased with it, and it's about 75% complete, due to be completed in August of this year. So take the stations and the layover yards. The layover yards, they're doing punch work on those, finishing paving. Those will be done by the end of September. So let's move to the track. Phil said that, you know, we really, in the last 3 years, have focused the project activities on the civil construction work. And now we've moved into a stage of the project some time ago where we're focusing on what's called track and signals in the business. So the first thing that you need to do is get the track work done. And not just done, but safety certified. And the way that FRA and the Federal Railroad Administration, you're going to hear me talk about FRA a lot, because we can't put this system in revenue service, make it available for passengers until the FRA certifies it as safe. And there are very strict guidelines that have to be followed and qualifications that have to be satisfied in order for that to happen. Now, I want to assure you that the MBTA knows how to do this. As you either have heard or read, was fortunate enough to work at the MBTA to put the ATC and PTC systems in place across the 400 miles of the existing commuter rail network. And that project also required FRA to certify that those systems were safe, something that they did back for the PTC system in August of 2020, ahead of what was the national schedule. So we know how to do this, and we're going to get it done. So the first thing is we have to reclassify the track. The track is classified as a Class 2 track because the only thing that runs on it today is your freight trains, which are running less than 25 miles an hour. In order for commuter rail trains to run at 79 miles an hour, we have to have the track recertified to a Class 5. We had to pass not only an internal MBTA safety certification process, which is very, very rigorous, but you need to do that in advance of the FRA considering your application for increasing the classification of the track and allowing you to run trains at 79 miles an hour. So as Phil indicated earlier, just this week received that approval from FRA. The track has been completely safety certified, both by the MBTA and by the FRA, and starting on Monday, we're going to start running commuter rail trains, for testing purposes only, but we're going to run them at increasing speeds at the crossings. I'll talk a little bit more about that, but in the end, the track now is safe to run trains at 79 miles an hour. Okay? Let's talk about the signal system. Just a minute about it, because we're going to talk about it, and I think everybody knows what ATC and PTC is, but simply, the signal system, the ATC is what they call the underlying signal system. You see the signals when you drive, and you can see them on the side of the road, and there are indications and signals in the cab that the locomotive engineer uses to operate the train. Those two systems together with the train operator are designed really to control the speed of the train. The PTC, they call that an overlay. And what that does is, as a result of all of the legislation that passed in 2008, what that does is that it's a very sophisticated set of systems that knows everything about the train. It knows where it is, it knows where it's going, it knows how fast it's traveling, it knows what the speeds are in front of it, it knows where it needs to stop, it knows where it needs to slow down. And what it does is it monitors the operation of the train. And if the operator doesn't manage the train, operate the train properly, then the PTC system will step in and it will either slow down or stop the train. So it's a vital safety system. It's FRA mandated, and every Class 1 railroad in the country must have it. And as I said, the MBTA has it on the 400 miles of commuter rail that's in revenue service now. We're adding these 37 miles, and so it too must pass that criteria. So we have, in fact, installed the entire signal system across all of the lines, and we've tested it. We've functionally tested it, so we know that it works. We've also, the way that you do this is you do ATC, the grade crossings, and then PTC when you're doing the testing. So the ATC has been fully tested. in terms of its functional testing. We know that it works. Now we're testing it at the grade crossings, and we have been doing that. We've been doing it at track speed, which is today 25 miles an hour, and we've been using Mass Coastal's locomotives because those are the locomotives that are operating down here and are operating at slow speeds. So basically when you test a signal system at a grade crossing, you're testing the activation, which means as the train approaches the gates, approaches the crossing, the gates go down, train goes through, gates go up. Sounds simple, but there are very specific requirements about how many seconds everything has to happen in order for it to be safe at particular speeds. So when we test every single crossing, we're testing it both in terms of, goes back and forth, so we're testing both directions in every route at multiple speeds. And in our case, 25, 45, and track speed, which is in many cases 79, but depending on the location of the crossing, it could be 60, it could be 50, whatever the maximum authorized speed is, we're testing at that. So as I said, on Monday, this coming Monday, we're going to be using an MBTA commuter rail train. You're going to see this happening. We're going to start on the New Bedford line, the south end of the New Bedford line, and you're going to see the train go by. One of the things I want to tell you is when you see the train go by, don't think, well, I won't see that again until tomorrow because that's going to Boston. No. The train's going to go up and back, up and back, up and back to test that section of the railroad where those crossings are. So there's going to be a lot of activity. The activity will move from section to section, but you'll see it that way until all the sections on the line are done, and then they test it end to end on the line. Okay? So after they get it all done, right now, we're planning to finish all of that ATC testing by the end of July. And that's a major, major, major milestone, because what that allows us to do is turn the dispatch over to Keolis, and then that will prepare us to be able to start to do PTC testing at track speed. We're also then going to introduce a second test train, so we'll have multiple trains running, and we can test on multiple lines at a time. So when the beginning of August, we expect to turn the train dispatch over to Keolis in preparation of ultimately what will be their responsibilities, and to have them support the testing. And we're going to add a second train. So you'll see a lot of activity in that period of time. Then the PTC signal system, again, it's completely installed, it's functionally tested. We have an operations control center in Boston. We've added this territory to that system, so it's actually live in Boston. And we're using that operations control center to do the testing down here on the South Coast. And we have the existing system, the existing rail system and the new rail system, and there's a very big interface there at the Marlborough, and we call it Pilgrim Junction because it's an interlocking there, but you think right where Marlborough Station is, the old and the new come together. We tested that about a month ago. For 9 days we had an outage and tested it. So that interface right there, so you can go from the old to new without any issues, has already been tested. Okay, so the next steps here is a process is going to take some time. As I said, the FRA requires train testing of all PTC functions on all South Coast Rail lines. There are approximately 800 different functions that have to be successfully tested. And we have to use FRA-approved test procedures to do it. This is a very it's a time-taking process. It's an exacting process. And it's not like you can run the test and if it doesn't pass, you run it again. Of course, that's what happens, but you have to find out why didn't it pass. And whatever it is, you have to fix it so that you can test it again. And it doesn't just have to pass one time, it has to pass every time. Okay? That's when you know that it's ready for FRA certification. So we're expecting that we're going to start the PTC train testing in June. It'll overlap with the ATC testing, but really start up in earnest when we have 2 trains in August. But it'll run from June to January. So you're going to see a lot of trains out here starting next Monday, and you're going to see that in terms of the testing that needs to take place from June to January. Okay? So once we get done with that, we will have a FRA certified signal system. The track will be certified, the signal system will be certified. The next step in getting to passenger service is what's called the new starts process. And when I checked, I didn't see that anybody had really spent a lot of time talking to anybody about the new starts process, which is pretty incredible because it's a pretty important process. It's been going on for some time. Again, the FRA mandates this process. A new start is exactly what you have here, which is a railroad that's never been provided passenger service before. It's a rigorous process. It's been going on for some time. But when you get to this place where your signal system and your track is all ready to go and has been safety certified, you enter this last phase, this new starts phase. The FRA has a set of requirements, which you can see on the screen there, for safety certification, to make sure they come in with really like a little army of regulators, and they're going to go through they're going to witness all of the things that we're doing. They're going to look at all of the testing that we've done. It's a very, very rigorous process, and they will conduct inspections and witness operations of simulated service. When we get to the place that they're satisfied that we've done everything that needs to be done and everything is working properly, then they have this process at the very, very end called revenue service demonstration, where they're going to say to the operating folks, we call it in the business, run the service. So what run the service means is you're running the trains on a schedule and everything is just as it would be, except there are no passengers. But the trains run on the schedule. They make the stops at the stations. FRA's got their army of people out there witnessing it. They all got their time clocks and their checkers, and they're watching and making sure that everything is going. They're looking at the results. The system produces the results. They're looking at those results and making sure that everything's working the way they expect it to. When they're satisfied, they'll go back to Washington. And of course, they have a process in Washington. I don't want to talk about that because, you know, we're in Washington now, so that's kind of outside of my purview. But there's a process there they have to go through up their chain of command in DOT, and they'll come back and tell us, you're all right, you're certified, you're safety certified, and ready to go into passenger service. And at that time, we'll be able to put the trains, make the trains available for passenger service. So this new starts process takes about 90 days. Okay? So let me just, I've talked about a lot of dates, and I know everybody's interested in the schedule, so I brought one. And here it is. And it seems, I think it's pretty uncomplicated, but I intended that. So basically the track and certificate, complete track and certification, that's done. Okay, and oh, by the way, this presentation is going to be available on the website, so you're welcome to take pictures and everything, but if you want your own copy of it, it's going to be available on the website. Okay? So complete track and certification, that's completed now. Start the test trains. It's going to be on Monday, June 17th. Signal testing for ATC crossings and PTC has already started. As I indicated, it's going to run through the end of January. Keola's dispatching is going to start the beginning of August. Complete the stations and the layovers, as I said, September. Keola's operations is going to start end of January. We're going to turn the fully tested FRA, tested at the project level, over to railroad operations. Railroad operations is going to go through the new starts process, which takes about 90 days, and so we're expecting that we'll be in revenue service in the spring. Okay? All right, I'm going to turn this back now to our general manager, who I know wants to talk about fares and safety.
Yes. So I know at the last meeting, I believe, there was a question on what the fare structure would be. We had our team taking a look at, you know, what is the appropriate fare structure. And while some stations are on the bubble of Zone 9 and Zone 8, we reviewed it, and we made the decision that all of these stations, based on the mileage traveled, are comparable to our Zone 8. So we're going to have all of these stations as Zone 8. Something else that's important is, as our board voted on and approved, low-income fare, which we're excited about as well. We'll be back to talk more about low-income fares, but low-income fares will be applicable to commuter rail as it will be to every mode that we're running. So that's another opportunity for folks to be able to use mass transportation. And again, we'll come back one more with that. But we wanted to be able to walk through how people can apply and pursue low-income fares, but this was something that I know people wanted to also know what our fare structure would be. So I think with the next slide, if I can, just wanted to kind of go back and reemphasize the importance of safety. When entering our system. Our goal is to make sure people feel welcome, people feel safe. But now that as we move into this phase where commuter rail trains will be running and at much faster speeds than people are used to, we will be back to talk more about safety, but today we want to emphasize it first and foremost. When these trains are approaching grade crossings, it's very important to adhere to the rules of the road and not try to go around gates, not try to beat gates. Karen talked about the testing that will be going on, and those trains will pass, and then they'll pass back in the other direction multiple times. We will also have folks monitoring and working at those grade crossings to protect them as we do testing as well, so they will not be just testing without folks monitoring our system. It's first and foremost very important. And we will always be doing, not only here but at other places, how we can engage with the public with regards to safety around our system. The other part is one of the things that we've implemented at all of the other 246 crossings across the commuter rail system is improved pavement markings, delineators that are reflectorized. We have seen this in other territories that I've worked on, where it actually has saved lives and allowed people during inclement weather, poor visibility, where they can see that there are train tracks and it's not a road, and those delineators are going to be in place, and they're already being implemented right now. So a couple of features about that. The other one, let's just see, just a few do's and don'ts around our tracks. You know, we see too often too many folks use the tracks and walk alongside. That's a very dangerous thing to do. Obviously, if our operators see it, they'll report it, they'll slow down trains, but we don't want anybody on the right-of-way where they shouldn't be. Don't walk your dog there, don't ride bikes, and just want to continue to remind people that railroad tracks are not a safe place to be if you're not a worker, if you're not a person of the operations, and you know, we too often see people do that, but we're going to continue to do that public messaging. Don't take shortcuts and do not go around gates whether you're walking or driving, and just really need to stay alert, because when trains are approaching at those maximum speeds of 79 miles per hour, they do approach much faster than people see. They may look far off in the distance, but they're on top of you in a heartbeat. So I think with that, I'm going to invite the team up. We will take any questions. I think there was one slide on the equipment that was passed over. Just for awareness, we have all of the train equipment that we need. We have all the hires that were needed to operate this additional service. They're all going through training right now. So really it is about the safety and testing of the signal system, and working through with FRA with regards to their certifications, their approvals to allow us to enter into passenger service. So I think with that, let's take some questions. Got one in the back? Do we need a mic or anyone for?
Is there a maximum speed somewhat below 79 miles an hour that's allowed for trains at grade crossing?
I think, as Karen mentioned, depending upon where the trains are operating in this territory, there are different maximum speeds throughout the territory.
Could it be as high as 79?
Yes, through certain grade crossings, it could be as high as 79 miles an hour. Other questions?
I'll pass it to whoever has. Remember with us?
Yeah.
We'll have questions for you afterwards.
Thank you. Ken Fiola, Executive Vice President of Bristol County Economic Development Consultants. So I don't even know where to start. Okay, so I'll just try to express, some concerns that I may have as it pertains to this project. Can you hear me? I'm sorry. You can hear me now? Okay. So for those of us that are here, and I look around the room, there's been plenty of us that have been working on this project for 30 plus years. During that 30-year period, we have been promised commuter rail. We've been given deadlines that have never come to fruition. We were told that we were going to have rail service back in the summer of '23. It was extended out to '24. Jean and her team came in the spring of this year, tried to update us again. unfortunately, she didn't have the information that I think was necessary at that time to really inform us as to where we are. So I think, if nothing else, I think the MBTA owes this region and this city and the residents of this area an apology for misleading the entire region with false promises and deadlines. And I understand that they may not have occurred under your watch, but I really have to question the transparency of the process to date and the information that's been disseminated to date. I don't know if money's been an issue. I'm not quite sure, why the previous team was fired. And I'm assuming, and with all due respect to those on the stage, I'm assuming that this team has the requisite experience and professionalism and experience to move this project forward. So we're working on this for 30 plus years. I guess another year's not going to kill us, okay? But it does have an impact on things we're doing locally here. There's a lot of private investment that's being considered in this region based upon a commuter rail schedule that's definitive. So when we're talking to businesses that are looking to invest, and we're talking to people that wanted to take the commuter rail, we're essentially have been given this, misleading information, and we disseminated that onto them, and that undermines our credibility. So I guess I need to know, with this smart action and everything else, you had a completion date of May, is that correct, of next year? Is it May, the testing is done on your part, then it goes to the FTA for their approval?
No. FTA is part of the process from the end of January through May. May is the, FRA I said, didn't I? Did I? FRA is part of the process. Actually, they're part of the process now.
Okay.
But the revenue service demonstration and the testing that starts on January 31st, FRA will be with us every step of the way. We anticipate that normally that process is a 90-day process. One of the things, and we will be coming back on a regular basis with each of these milestones to provide updates. But that May date is the anticipation of passenger service. And we are going to do everything we can to beat that May date. We're still not done working on possibilities to ship things, but what we wanted to do is come with a definitive schedule. That's why hopefully you'll see that this schedule that we have has different milestones throughout. August 1st, as Karen showed, was Keola's taking over dispatching, right? The testing of the ATC, PTC components that will take us through January. If that is finished or approaching sooner, we'll be certainly here, and if there's any challenges, we'll be back even before those dates to provide updates.
So just in follow-up to that, so we understand that's the project schedule. I think one of the things that would be helpful, I think, to the residents of this area is the transit schedule. When trains are going to begin, how many trains are going to be running a day, those types of things, whether or not there's going to be weekend service. Those are still things that we don't have a handle on and we have no information on. And those are very important things for people that are planning maybe to relocate down here and commute into Boston or do whatever. So the earlier we can get that information, which I would think we would have by now. I don't know why we don't have it, but it just seems to me that if we're spending all this money on a project, we would at least know when the train's going to run and whether or not we have a weekend schedule and what the fares are going to be. I know you talked about low-income fares, but what is going to be the normal cost? How does the intimate deal, how does the parking work? There are specific things that people need to know and want to know to really start to buy into this project. And right now, unfortunately, the project is somewhat jaundiced by the continuous schedule, not meeting the schedule. And I think, in order to reestablish some credibility, and I believe in a project, and I know you have a tough job, but I think we just got to put out definitive milestones and definitive fare determinations and definitive schedules so that people can start buying into this and planning accordingly, for kids that may be thinking of commuting to school in Boston from down here and vice versa, right? So I understand you have a tough job, and I understand you're doing it to the best of your ability. So I'm not here to criticize anybody's efforts. Thank God you got rid of the last team. I don't know why it took so long to kick that team out that failed to, adhere to these standards. This is the first time we're hearing about these standards. So when this was going on, when they were telling us last year that we should be operational in the summer, that was bogus because none of this was happening. And we had subsequent meetings since then without any of this coming to light. So I'm not going to belabor the point. I'd just like to thank you for coming here. Thank you for sharing your information. Hopefully we can work collectively together to move the project forward and not have any more lapses. Thank you.
Thank you. One thing just for awareness, as I've been traveling through across the state, throughout different communities, we are more than happy to come back and meet with local developers and specific communities to talk about more of those questions. One thing for clarity, it is a Zone 8, which full fare is $12.25, and a reduced fare would be $6. So that has been defined, and we will certainly come back with schedule information because we understand how important that is.
As you all may be aware, we do have a second community meeting that we have to get to, so we have time for 1 or 2 more questions, and then we're going to try to make time for the media before we jet over to the second community meeting. So I'm going to apologize in advance for having to steal that man off of the stage. Please blame me, don't blame him. I'm going to hand the mic to you.
Thank you. Hi, my name is Shannon Avery Damaris, and I live in Swansea. I'm starting my new job in Boston in July. I was really hoping to be on a train, and turns out I'm going to have to drive to Attleboro to get the train to go into Boston. So thank you very much in advance for working so hard to try to get this together for us. Can you tell me how long the trip is going to be from Fall River Station to Boston?
We anticipate that that trip is about a 90-minute trip.
Okay. And my second question is, or just comment is, I didn't know about this meeting until yesterday afternoon when I got an email. Earlier notice for meetings would be very appreciated. Also, I haven't been able to access any of the PowerPoints from the last meeting that we had in Fall River in the spring, so I haven't been able to find it on the website. I can find older meeting info. I would appreciate having that. Thank you.
We will get that information to you, and certainly make sure that we have more notice for future meetings.
Hello, thanks for coming. Alexander Silva, 148 Purchase Street, Fall River resident, born and raised. I actually had to move away to the Metro West area after college to gain commuter rail access to find an entry-level job in Boston, so I really appreciate all efforts, and I can't stress the impact it will have onto current residents as well as potential new residents. My question is, what metrics are you using to determine fares for the area and weekend service? Because I'm sure you know that Fall River's general median income is around the 40,000, probably less than 40,000 per resident area. So if you're actually looking to see high levels of ridership, I think that's key to that. Similarly with weekend service, I know people talk about, finding jobs and getting jobs in different areas and using the commuter rail for that, but that is not an instantaneous process. I think you would see more instantaneous ridership with weekend service, with people who are actually waiting for an alternative to go to Boston. Thank you.
So the metric with regards to zones is distance-based. We did a review of similar stations of similar distances, and the Zone 8 is where we decided. There were some that potentially could have been Zone 9, which would have been a higher cost, but we felt that, as you mentioned, it's important to try and make it as affordable as possible. So we stayed with Zone 8 across this whole territory. I did mention that for low income, there is opportunity to apply for that depending upon. We also have discounts, and we also have discounts for students. So every bracket has the ability to hopefully try mass transportation. We are certainly also going to be monitoring the ridership after the initial schedule, just to see how many people are taking the trip all the way in, how many people are going from zone to zone, and we will be looking to modify schedules based on ridership. We do understand the importance of the frequency and the ability to use it on off hours, because that's where we've seen a lot of ridership take place, particularly now with flexible work schedules and remote work schedules. People are looking for that flexibility, and we're certainly going to keep that into mind as we develop this. One more?
Hi, my name's Tom Lowney. I've been involved in this side, watching it very carefully ever since I was, and I'm getting ready to retire. And we talked into the phases of this. This phase is coming to completion. That's our target date. We're just happy to get to that particular target. But the follow-on phases that were planned, are those still being considered? Are those a debt issue? What are we looking at? Expanding the gravel, and so forth. We need a third phase.
I think right now, my goal is to complete this project, get this project done. We are reviewing, we just recently approved a 5-year capital plan. The capital plan was based on primarily right now fixing and maintaining the infrastructure that we have today. That doesn't mean there are not projects in there, because there are projects in there that are building towards the future. One of the things that we're doing, and I kind of opened with it, as we look to capital delivery, we'll look to how we manage projects. I'm really focused on managing projects differently, where we're holding ourselves more accountable to schedules, to costs, and to be able to maximize what we can deliver with those dollars. So we will have more as we get into future capital programs on how do we continue to make those wise investments. Commuter rail is an area that has grown back more robust than any part of our system. It's also come back stronger than any territory across the country because of the frequency and the operations and the on-time performance. So we're definitely going to take a look at mass transportation, commuter rail, another area, and I know that's not your question, but buses. And buses carry about 40% of our ridership. So we have a lot of areas that we have to look at. How do we connect them all together? But one of the things is, I think as you'll start to see our capital program is laid out, is maybe I don't have the billions of dollars for certain projects, but if I do this in the right sequence, we can build in the fashion that we're always moving in the direction of the longer vision, and how do we make not only commuter rail service, regional rail, but how do we have all of our systems interlinked? You know, and this is tied to the regional transit authorities too. It's not just what the MBTA can do, but how do we connect with all of those other components that make to the great place of living in the state of Massachusetts.
So that phase, future phases are just on drawing boards right now.
Right now, that's all being reviewed, sir, yes.
Any final thoughts before?
We asked a question about weekend service. I know that's what we mentioned. Is there weekend services?
So right now, and a big part of the New Starts process that was talked about is how this service interacts with the existing service. So this shares a line with existing Middleborough service, Plymouth Kingston service, and service at the Situate. So we have capacity constraints. I will say that the initial commitment was for 26 trips per day during the weekday. We're very confident that we're going to do better than that. As far as weekend service, we are aggressively looking at ways to implement all service options, weekends, later night service, to facilitate all that and still marry it all together with the existing service. It's a delicate balancing act, but we're looking at every avenue to deliver the best service that we can. Well, right now, if I had a schedule to share with you, I would. We are working on developing that full schedule.
We're going to have to wrap up very quickly now. I just want to thank everyone profusely for coming out tonight. I know it's a beautiful night, you'd rather be outside, but we had a strong desire, the GM had a strong desire to share this information with you and to bring the new team, the new leadership team, to introduce to you. And as he said, he's going to be here, he's going to be in communication, and my weekly e-blast will have updates so that you'll be kept current on how we are sticking to these milestones that Karen described. And you know how to reach me, all of you, so feel free to reach out. I hear from you all the time, it's okay. And congratulations on your job in July, I'm glad. So with that, I'm gonna say good evening to everyone, and thank you very much for coming out tonight. Have a cookie. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.